Hey everyone, 2018 Verizon Vikings training camp rolls along, but we've come inside to the comfy confines of TCO Studios, and we're joined by our friend Mike Florio of NBC Sports, Pro Football Talk. Keeping your eye on the Vikings, I see today, Mike.
Well, and keeping my eye on this facility, I have never seen anything like it. I mean, every aspect of it is impressive, state-of-the-art, top of the line, including this studio. I mean, I know we don't see much of it here, but the entire studio itself, it's every bit as nice as anything I've ever worked in. It's just a little bit smaller than the one that we use for Football Night in America, but the lighting, the quality of it, everything in here, the materials, the cameras, this is really an impressive part of a very impressive facility.
Well, you know, when you're in a great studio like the Football Night in America studio, it makes everyone involved even more excited to produce great content, right?
Yeah, with the exception of me, I end up usually, screwing things up one way or the other. But it does raise the floor a little bit, right? We get a little bit better as a result of it. But yeah, this really is a fascinating facility, the studio, everything we've seen today. We've been all over every nook and cranny of this facility. I've never seen anything like it, and I think it sets a new bar for really every team in the NFL.
You've been everywhere, and that includes the head coach's office. So you got to chat with Zim. You've gotten to see the team. What are you thinking so far?
Well, look, I think that there's a long way to go, and there's a lot of work to be done. And I know a lot of the work's already been done during the offseason program, but some significant changes to the team. The arrival of a new quarterback, the departure of 3 starting caliber quarterbacks, the departure of an offensive coordinator, and John DeFilippo now in that position. How's that going to go? The tragedy last week with the passing of Coach Sperano, the offensive line coach position, how does that all work out? So there's a lot of things that need to be done. And the problem is, from the outside, I think a lot of people look at this team and say, okay, it's just a matter of taking the next step. Well, first of all, you got to get back to the spot where you even have a chance to take it to the next step. And that's not easy. And you get thrown back into what Dennis Green used to call the valley of 0 and 0. And you got to start all over again. The schedule's tougher this year. A trip to New England, the usual trips to Green Bay, and a trip to Seattle. So it's not going to be easy. It never is. The schedule does seem to be more difficult than last year, and the Vikings are going to be a team that other teams are going to be more likely to bring that proverbial A game when it's time to play them. So you add it all up and you look at everything that's happened, and I just don't think it's realistic to just assume that we get to that weekend in January when the 2 conference championship games are being played, and the Vikings are automatically going to be one of those teams. I think it's going to take a lot to just get back to the point where there is that chance to try to get to the next level.
So then, to dovetail off of a couple of points that you made, new offense with a new quarterback and a new coordinator, and then the schedule, especially early, if you consider Green Bay in week 2, the Rams in week 4, and the Eagles in week 5, okay? In your first 5 weeks, a tough road to hoe, so to speak. So, patience-wise, how long will the public have patience in this team so that when we get into November and December and things get rolling, then that's when maybe the team will get going?
Well, look, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of patience. And if the team comes out of the gates 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 2 and 4, I think people will get antsy. Not quite like in 1999, the year after that team went 15 and 1 and fell short of the Super Bowl, because that team had, I think, more continuity going into the next season. Even though Brian Billick left to be the head coach of the Ravens, the players were essentially the same, and there was a sense that this high-flying offense fueled by Randy Moss was just going to pick up where it left off, and it took a while to get going. Randall Cunningham got benched for Jeff George, and ultimately it worked out, but the team didn't get back to the NFC Championship game. So I think maybe this time around fans will be a little more patient, because I think that and I hope that fans realize you can't just assume that it's fast forward to January and win in the divisional round and hope that things fall the right way in the championship game. And any slip-up, especially if you're trying to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which I think we saw last year and we see in many years, is critical. You have to win week in, week out, and you have to have that mentality. One of the things that makes the Patriots great, they always have that week in and week out mentality, and that's what Coach Zimmer and the rest of the staff needs to instill in the players.
Last question, I want to focus on the offensive line. Drafting Pat Elflein, that turns out to be a really good pick. Signing Riley Reif and getting Mike Remmers also in free agency, and addressing it again this year in the draft with a second-round pick. I mean, things could develop here, and this could actually become a group that has a talented starting 5 and maybe a little bit of depth. Is there anything wrong with being optimistic about what the Vikings have done the last 2 years building this group up?
No, but I think that maybe last year the offensive line the perception of its performance was aided by the fact that Case Keenum was so good at moving laterally out of trouble. I mean, he would run, he would reset, look down the field, run, reset, and inevitably he'd find somebody wide open, right? And I mean, hey, maybe Kirk Cousins will do the exact same thing if required, but ultimately you want to have a scenario where your quarterback takes 3, 5, 7 steps back and works through his reads and delivers the football to whoever's open. If he has time to do it, when you look at the quality of the receivers from Stephon Diggs to Adam Thielen to Kyle Rudolph and Dalvin Cook, if he's healthy coming out of the backfield, there should be plenty of options for Kirk Cousins. But I think the more time they can buy him, the better off the offense is going to be. And when you look at what Cousins has done in his career, playing for a Washington team that it hasn't been nearly as talented as the Vikings in recent years, playing on a field that hasn't been nearly as green as it should be, right? Playing outdoors in the elements. You put him in a dome, you put him with talented players, you put him with a great defense, and this is a guy who could end up justifying every penny that they're going to pay him over the next 3 years.
Are you excited about your schedule here this fall, your Football Night in America schedule, your Sunday schedule, all that stuff shaping up okay?
Well, we always get a great Sunday Night Football schedule because the NFL realizes that games played on broadcast TV, 3-letter networks, right? That's where you get the biggest possible audience. So in 2006, when NBC picked up Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football moved from ABC to ESPN, that Sunday night schedule necessarily becomes a great game. And we're always very happy with the schedule that the NFL chooses to put on Sunday night because that's the marquee game of the week. And then with that ability to flex as the season progresses, you avoid, a late season stinker between a couple of teams that were expected to be really good but ended up not being very competitive. So it should be a great season. And, weekly trips to Stamford, Connecticut for the Sunday Night Football and Football Night in America duties, maybe we'll be on scene here at some point. We can only hope.
I think you should be, and we're going to be on air at least twice. Saints and Packers games, I believe, are Sunday Night Football games. So.
Well, hopefully it'll be like a really special event, and they'll decide to bring the whole crew up to Minnesota for the Sunday Night Football pregame show.
We got some things for you to do if that happens, all right?
All right, I'll be ready to go.
All right, thanks for your time, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right.